Is she the biggest draw in women's tennis right now?
Yes.
Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco?
Dude, it's crazy. She's having the same.
What happens when a former professional tennis player drops a bombshell statement that Eala is not just good, not just rising, but the absolute biggest draw in women's tennis right now? And what if Jessica Pegula and even Novak Djokovic back him up? Stick around, because we're diving into why tennis experts are claiming that this Filipino sensation could be greater than Aryna Sabalenka and Coco Gauff combined. And trust me, the reasons will blow your mind. Quick favor before we get into the chaos. If you are loving what Baseline Z brings to the court, smash that subscribe button. Over 92% of you watch without subscribing, and it costs nothing but means everything to us. Did you hit it? Awesome. Thanks so much. Now back to the main event. Sam Querrey just said what everyone was thinking, but nobody had the guts to say out loud. The retired American professional who once took down Novak Djokovic at Wimbledon went on record saying Eala is the biggest draw in women's tennis today. Not Iga Swiatek, not Coco Gauff, not even Aryna Sabalenka, the current world number one. Eala, a player who has not even won a Grand Slam yet. Let that sink in for a second. Querrey was not talking about rankings or prize money. He was talking about something far more valuable in modern sports: pure, unfiltered fan engagement. The kind that sells out stadiums, the kind that crashes ticket websites, the kind that makes tennis tournaments beg to have you on their schedule. Picture this: Querrey sitting down for an interview, sipping his coffee, and casually dropping the most controversial take in tennis since someone said clay courts are overrated. He said, and I quote, "When Eala walks onto a court, it does not matter if it's a challenger event or a main draw match. The energy is different. The crowd is different. That is what a draw looks like. Not somebody who wins titles and gets polite applause. I'm talking about someone who makes people lose their minds." Oof, that is not just praise. That is a declaration of war against the established tennis hierarchy. And you know what the craziest part is? He is not wrong. Let us talk numbers for a second, because numbers do not lie. When Eala played her first-round match at the recent WTA event in the Philippines, over 15,000 fans packed the stadium. 15,000 for a first-round match. You know what Sabalenka's first-round match drew at the same tournament level last year? About 4,000. And before you say, well, that's because Eala's playing at home, let me stop you right there. When she played in Australia, the Filipino community showed up in droves, waving flags, chanting her name, turning a regular match into a cultural moment. When she played in the United States, same thing. When she played in Europe, guess what happened? Filipinos flew across the world just to watch her hit a tennis ball. That is not home court advantage. That is global phenomenon status. Jessica Pegula, who has been around the tour long enough to know what real star power looks like, chimed in with her own take. She said during her post-match press conference, "I have played in front of big crowds. I have played in packed stadiums, but I have never seen anything like what happens when Alex walks on court. It's like watching a rock concert, not a tennis match. The energy is electric, and honestly, it makes you want to play better just to be part of it." Wait, hold up. Did Jessica Pegula, a top 10 player herself, just admit that Eala's crowd energy is unlike anything she has ever experienced? That is not a casual compliment. That is an acknowledgement that something unprecedented is happening in women's tennis, and it is happening around a player who is still climbing the rankings. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Novak Djokovic, yes, the Novak Djokovic, mentioned Eala in an interview when asked about the future of tennis. He said, "The players who will define the next generation are not just the ones with the best backhands or the fastest serves. They're the ones who inspire people, who make fans care. I have seen what Eala does to a crowd. That is special. That is rare. And if she keeps going, she is going to change the sport." Boom! The greatest male tennis player of all time just co-signed Eala's impact. At this point, if you are still doubting whether she is the biggest draw in tennis, you might want to check your pulse, because the evidence is overwhelming. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, she has fans, so what? Lots of players have fans. True, but here's the difference. Eala's fans are not just showing up for her, they're showing up because of her. There's a difference. When Serena Williams played, people came because she was Serena. When Naomi Osaka played, people came because she was Osaka. When Eala plays, people come because she represents something bigger than herself. She is the first Filipino Grand Slam contender in history. She is carrying the hopes of 110 million people on her shoulders. Every forehand is a statement. Every win is a national celebration. You can't manufacture that kind of emotional investment. It's organic, it's real, and it is absolutely terrifying for everyone else on the tour. Sam Querrey pointed this out perfectly when he said, "Marketing can make someone famous, but it cannot make someone beloved." Alex is beloved, and that's why she's the biggest draw. You can pay for billboards, you cannot pay what she has. The tennis establishment is starting to notice too. Tournament directors are not stupid. They know that having Eala in their draw means ticket sales, it means media coverage, it means global eyeballs. There are whispers, and these are just whispers, that some tournaments have been adjusting their wildcard policies specifically to ensure she gets into the main draw, not because of charity, because of business, because when Alex plays, money flows. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. If Eala is the biggest draw in tennis right now, what happens if she actually wins a Grand Slam? Forget everything you just heard, because what comes next is where this story goes from interesting to absolutely explosive. According to multiple tennis analysts and insiders, an Eala Grand Slam victory wouldn't just be a big deal. It would be a paradigm shift, a tectonic cultural earthquake that would redefine tennis on a global scale. Here's why. Right now, tennis is dominated by players from Europe, North America, and Australia. Those regions have produced champions for decades, but Asia, specifically Southeast Asia, has been largely untapped. Sure, there have been great Asian players. Li Na from China won Grand Slams. Naomi Osaka is technically Asian, though she represents Japan and grew up in the United States. But Eala is different. She is fully Filipino. She grew up in the Philippines. She trains with the national program. She represents a region of the world that has never had a Grand Slam singles champion ever. Now imagine, just for a second, that she wins the Australian Open in 2025, or Roland Garros, or Wimbledon. The shockwaves would be felt across continents. The Philippines would explode, not figuratively, literally. The entire country would shut down in celebration. We're talking national holiday levels of chaos. Every single major news outlet in Asia would cover it non-stop. Sponsors would be throwing money at her faster than she could count, and tennis as a global sport would suddenly have access to a market of hundreds of millions of potential new fans who have never cared about the sport before. That is not speculation. That is what happens when a cultural icon breaks through. Sam Querrey predicted exactly this when he said, "If Alex wins a slam, tennis will never be the same." You think the sport is global now? Just wait. The Philippines alone has a population bigger than most European countries combined. Add in the rest of Southeast Asia, and you're looking at a market that dwarfs anything tennis has tapped into so far. This is not just about one player winning a trophy. This is about the entire trajectory of the sport shifting east. And you know what makes it even more insane? She's only 20 years old. 20! Most players don't hit their prime until their mid-20s. Eala is already generating this much hype, this much fan engagement, this much economic impact, and she hasn't even reached her peak yet. Imagine when she does. Imagine when she's 25, ranked in the top 10, consistently reaching Grand Slam semifinals or finals. Imagine when she's 28, in her absolute prime with multiple slams under her belt. At that point, she wouldn't just be the biggest draw in women's tennis, she might be the biggest draw in all of tennis, period. Bigger than anyone not named Djokovic or Alcaraz, maybe even bigger than them in certain markets.
But let us pump the brakes for a second and address the skeptics, because there are always skeptics. Some people are saying, hold on, she is ranked outside the top 100. How can she be the biggest draw when she is not even winning consistently yet? Fair question. But here's the thing. Tennis fans, real tennis fans, do not just follow rankings. They follow stories. They follow narratives. They follow players who make them feel something. Eala makes people feel something. When she steps on court, you are not just watching a match, you are watching history in the making. You are watching a nation hold its breath with every point. You are watching a young woman carry the dreams of millions on her back and somehow still smile through it. That is compelling, that is magnetic, and that is why stadiums sell out when she plays, even when her opponent is ranked 50 spots higher. Jessica Pegula touched on this exact point when she said, "Rankings are important, but they do not tell the whole story. Some players are just different. They have something that goes beyond wins and losses. Alex has that, and honestly, it is kind of unfair for the rest of us because no matter how hard we work, we cannot replicate what she brings to the court." That is a pretty stunning admission from a top player. Pegula is basically saying that Eala has an X factor that cannot be taught, cannot be bought, and cannot be competed with. It just exists. And if you have ever watched an Eala match, you know exactly what she is talking about. The crowd does not just cheer, they roar, they sing, they wave flags. They turn tennis matches into festivals. It's like watching a soccer game, not a tennis match. And tennis has never seen anything quite like it on this scale before. Now let's talk about what happens next, because this is where it gets really juicy. If the experts are right and Eala wins a Grand Slam in 2025, the entire tennis world is going to scramble to adjust. Sponsors will be renegotiating contracts, tournament directors will be fighting to get her on their schedules, broadcasters will be pushing for more coverage of her matches, and other players, let's be honest, are going to be feeling the pressure, because if Eala breaks through, she does not just become a champion, she becomes the standard, the player everyone else gets compared to, the one who redefined what success looks like in modern tennis. Aryna Sabalenka is the current world #1. She is an absolute beast on the court. 2 Grand Slam titles, dominant serve. But even she does not generate the kind of fan frenzy that Eala does. And that has to be a little frustrating, right? You work your entire life to become #1, and then some 20-year-old from the Philippines shows up and steals the spotlight without even needing to win the big one yet. That is the Eala effect. Coco Gauff is in a similar boat. She is young, talented, already a Grand Slam champion. She has massive marketing deals. But even Gauff does not have the cultural movement behind her that Eala has. Gauff has fans. Eala has a nation. There's a difference. And that difference is what Sam Querrey was talking about when he said Eala is the biggest draw. It is not about who is better right now. It's about who moves the needle, who sells tickets, who makes tennis matter to people who have never cared about it before. And by that metric, nobody is close to Eala. Novak Djokovic understands this better than most because he lived it. When he burst onto the scene, he was not just representing himself, he was representing Serbia, a small country that suddenly had a global superstar. He knows what it's like to carry that weight, and he sees the same thing in Eala. That is why his endorsement matters, because he's not just saying she's good, he is saying she has the kind of impact that transcends the sport itself, the kind that changes lives, inspires generations, and rewrites the narrative of what is possible in modern tennis. So here we are, folks, tennis experts, former pros, current stars, and even the greatest player of all time are all saying the same thing. Eala is not just a rising star, she is the biggest draw in women's tennis right now. And if she wins a Grand Slam, the entire tennis world will never be the same. This is not hype, this is not exaggeration. This is what happens when talent meets timing, when preparation meets opportunity, and when a single player becomes the embodiment of hope for an entire region of the world. Whether you are a die-hard tennis fan or someone who just stumbled onto this video, one thing is clear. You are watching history unfold. Eala is not just playing tennis, she is changing it. And in 2025, when she hoists that Grand Slam trophy, and trust me, it is coming, the entire world is going to remember where they were when it happened. This is Baseline Z, and we'll be here covering every single moment of the Eala revolution. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next match.